are going to be joining us, and we are about to start our final North Carolina Governor's Working Group meeting of the year. I appreciate all of you being here. I've got just a little information, a little history about the Governor's Working Group. Back in 2006, a group of people got together and said that there is more that we can do for our veterans in this state. Why? Because all of the benefits that veterans had available to them were in our department, in this division, and that division, and nobody was talking to each other. And they got together and said, we can do more. We need more in the way of mental health. We need more in the way of behavioral health. We need more help for our veterans. We need to link them to resources. So they began linking people together. You can see our timeline. I'm not going to go through it all. I am going to jump to 2014 because NC for Vets, NC for Me, NC Strive, WISE, VBACs, all started in that year. Things really blew up in that year. In 2015, we got our Veteran Support Specialist Program, which we thought was phenomenal. We are so happy to be able to continue to offer that program. In 2016, they focused on homelessness, and they made a big dent in homelessness. In 2017, we started working on suicide reduction. It became a national issue, and we still are working on that today. 2018, we took it to the web, and we are on Governor's Institute Live on Facebook right now. 2019, here we are. We're looking forward to 2020. We're going to do just a little brief. That's our webpage. And all of those you can go down and click on, get all kinds of information there. This is our viewership from this year. It actually goes back to last August, but look at some of those numbers. Over 8,000 people logging in and watching the Governor's Working Group. And why? Because we always have good educational information about resources that are available to the veterans in the state of North Carolina. This year, we started out working on and focusing on veterans employment programs. We are still a little slow to getting some of our veterans to work. We have one of the slightly higher unemployment rates for veterans in accordance to the whole United States, so we still need to work on that. Veterans education resources, Medicaid, and North Carolina veterans, that was back in March. In April, we kicked off our suicide prevention, 3 months worth of strategies, working on how we can reduce veteran suicide. Our last big push was post-traumatic growth, and during those post-traumatic growth Governor's Working Groups, we got to learn about a lot of alternative therapies here in North Carolina that are available to our veterans. Excuse me. NC Strive, getting our veterans who are in schools. Very important, huge. It's blown up this year. NC Strive keeps them, gets us in touch with not only our veteran students, but our veterans' children who are students, who have their own special set of struggles. If you get to go to an NC Strive event, I encourage you to do so. We usually have at least 4 of those in a year. Here are all the places that you can find us, and these slides will all be made available to you. And now we have something really special for you.
I don't even know how much of this we're going to use, but let's find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Mark Edmonds. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Division of Workforce Solutions within North Carolina Department of Commerce.
Hi, I'm Martin Falls. I am the Deputy Secretary for the Department of Military and Veteran Affairs of North Carolina.
My name is Mark Belos. I'm the Director of the Winston-Salem Department of Veterans Affairs Regional Office.
Hi, I'm Deanne Seekins. I'm the Network Director for the Mid-Atlantic Network, DISN 6.
I'm Dr. Michelle Laws, and I am over community engagement and empowerment for the North Carolina Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Abuse Services.
I'm a 28-year Army veteran. I come from an Army family. My wife, my brother, my father, my grandfather.
I spent over 30 years in the Army. I went from a private to a colonel.
My father served in the military. He served in the Army.
I have a husband who's a veteran. I have a father who was a World War II veteran who used our healthcare system. And I have a son who's enlisting in the military next week.
You're talking about my passion. That's what you're talking about, my passion. What do we do here? We advocate for veterans and for the military installations within North Carolina.
I am responsible for veterans care in North Carolina and Virginia, provide service to about 500,000 unique veterans.
One of our overall objectives and missions is to increase the usage of our benefits. We are getting out around the state to educate veterans on what entitlements they may be eligible for.
Our division has invested millions of dollars to make sure that veterans have access to the appropriate mental health, developmental disabilities, and substance use disorder services that are needed. We want to make sure that no veteran is sleeping under a bridge. We want to make sure that not one more veteran dies by suicide in North Carolina.
So our part of the Veteran Support Network, this collaborative, this network is the job piece. And so we match veteran job seekers with employers. That's what we do. Any veteran that comes into the office gets priority of service. So they go to the front of the line for any job seeker services. They go to the front of the line for any funded training. They go to the front of the line for any employment services and to get them jobs.
We work hand in hand with Commerce, Department of Commerce, and Workforce Solutions in particular.
We can't do it on our own in the Department of Veterans Affairs. We have to collaborate and work with other people.
The Governor's Working Group is a great venue. You've got federal, state, local government, you've got civic organizations, you've got veteran service organizations, such as, the Veteran Foreign War, the American Legion. All those are partners.
One thing that sets veterans aside, the whole veteran community, is we leave no man or woman behind. And I think everybody takes that seriously. And so when you look at groups like the Governor's Working Group, it allows us all to come together and really help veterans that are in need.
What I've really appreciated about our Governor's Work Group is we've been able to walk hand in hand and focus on issues, suicide prevention, suicide awareness. That is something that no one healthcare system, no one community partner can solve alone.
It's really exciting. Sometimes being with the organization I've been with for so long, you get used to doing things the same way. This is an opportunity to do things differently.
And one of the things I'd like to say as a result of the Governor's Working Group is North Carolina is now below the national average of veteran suicide rate. Second thing is North Carolina is below the national average of homeless veteran rate. So I can only attribute that to information, education, and collaboration.
Everyone has their niche, right? No one knows everything, and some of us specialize in very narrowly focused areas. And we believe that if we can pull all of these resources together and this expertise together through sharing of information through the North Carolina Governor's Working Group, sharing information, letting people know across the state what programs and services exist, then that's really key. That's critical.
Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. And as usual, I want to bring you greetings from the 75th Governor of the state of North Carolina, Roy Cooper.
Every day, there's a win somewhere, if you look at it. And that win keeps you going the next day, and the day after, and the day after. That yes, perseverance does work. And it makes it all worthwhile.
Wow. So what is the Governor's Working Group? The Governor's Working Group is taking advocacy to a new level. It's not just identifying the benefits that you can provide in your office, it's collaborating with the rest of these folks so we make sure our veterans are taken care of when sometimes our answer is no. So if you want to take your advocacy to a new level, make sure that in 2020, you're tuning in for the Governor's Working Group. I'm now going to turn this over to Mr. John Camp with Campsite Strategies, helping promote the gay and, hold on, advocate for veterans. Gotcha. He is moderating today's conversation with some of the leaders in our state. Take it away, Mr. Camp.
Thanks very much. I guess what I'd like to do, if I could just say this to start, Martin, you did great on that thing. You were great on that thing. Wasn't Secretary Falls really inspiring? I had the good fortune of going around, and that was those were all interviews that I got to do with these folks, and I got to learn a whole kind of different side, a personal side of the folks kind of at the top of the veteran flagpole, veteran services flagpole in North Carolina. And what's so great about today is we have an opportunity with all these VSO guys and folks in the room, ladies and the guys in the room, to talk to you. We can really get a conversation started today between and continuing between the folks who are putting services into action every single day and putting your efforts and blood and sweat and tears into this game, right when we can put you in the game and in the conversation with the folks who are making decisions and helping inspire the leadership of the very same conversation. So that's what today we hope to get out of. And if you haven't taken an opportunity to write questions down for these folks, and I think we're also expecting Dr. Michelle Laws from DHHS to show shortly. I don't know if anybody else is coming, if we have a representative from Commerce coming today. Mark Evans, are you here, sir, for Commerce? And if you are and you want to come up and represent, that's more than fine. So we just want to get this conversation started. If you haven't written down questions for these folks, take an opportunity to do that. Hopefully there are pens floating around or something you can write on. And then if you can get those questions, everyone sort of knows Jeff. He's a familiar face, I think. If you don't, Jeff, do you want to wave? This is Jeff Smith. He can pick them up and he'll kind of, sort them out and get them to me at some point. Let me start this off. Do we have microphones up there for you guys? Is this the only mic that we're looking at right now anyway? Let me start this way then. I'll go over and get that one in just a moment. I'll be able to use that maybe on the side. Let me start with you, Secretary Falls. And why don't we start by having you quickly, the video did a nice job of introducing you. I think the other two have a little bit of an introduction to make. But I'll let you just start by, and I think where I'd like to start this conversation is what you're most excited about going into 2020. This is the last Governor's Working Group meeting that will be held this year. And so when we come out on the other side of it, everybody's going to be primed to go. Why don't you start by telling folks a little bit about what you're most excited about for next year and get people dreaming a little bit. Can you help us with that? Sure. Thanks.
Be glad to. Thank you, John. As you've seen who I am, I'll go back and say my father was a World War II veteran, two brothers, Vietnam War veterans, Iraqi veteran for myself, my grandfathers, and so forth and so on, all the way back. So I do have a long lineage of military history. The exciting thing that I'm looking at right now, I can't be more excited about those that's in this room. The greatest asset we have for veterans is here today, this week. The training and the hands to those service officers. And we had the fortunate opportunity of having Dr. Lawrence here, the Undersecretary for Benefits, on Tuesday, and he spoke. And, that was a major event for him and for us, because he sees where this is where the rubber hits the road for the first time in the folks that's in this room. The collaboration from the Winston-Salem Regional Office. They were here, they have provided the training team for these veteran service officers, putting more tools in their toolbox. So this year coming is going to be a greater year, because Dr. Lawrence has said it. We figured out what we need to be doing, and now we're just building on that, adding more to make it better for the next year. We've had all the veteran health You ready for me to cut off, John?
At some point, we're gonna need you to cut off. Is this mic on, by the way? The problem with Martin, if you don't know him, if you get him started, he doesn't stop. He's like a wind-up toy that you just keep on going. But he'll talk your ear off and inspire you until he's done. So
I want you to be inspired, John. But we had all 4 hospital directors here. And one of them's in the back right now from Fayetteville. Hoorah. Absolutely. You know, we got it from the horse's mouth this week. These people right here, our veteran service officers, the greatest service officers in the world, and I think Dr. Lawrence said that, they're here. They got the knowledge, they got the training, they know what to do. Now they can put those practices to work next year. Yes, I'm excited. Yes, we've made strides this year, as noted, and we're looking for bigger and better things because we've got the bar. Now let's move it higher. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Ms. Shear, it's Lisa Shear.
Yes.
You're the nurse executive in Business 6, is that right? As well as the compliance, do I have this right?
I'm the
Compliance officer?
quality manager.
Quality manager. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Lisa Shear. I've been in North Carolina for just about 12 years now. I came to Business 6 from Ohio. I have served 9 years as an active duty Air Force officer, and I'm currently serving as the IMA, which is an augmentee to the chief nurse at Joint Base Andrews as an Air Force reservist, and have about 2 more years to go and winding up my Air Force career, so that'll total out at 27 years. I've been with Business 6, as I said, for 12 years. I oversee the nursing as well as accreditation, legal affairs, compliance, so like their joint commission kind of stuff and things like that. And I'm very happy and proud to represent Ms. Deanne Seekins, our network director for Business 6, who is up in DC at the Governor's Board this week. And what I see as excitement, as I said, I've been in Business 6 for a while. The last 2 years under Deanne's leadership have been a phenomenal time of change. And the amount of partnering with the community has been very exciting. I see all sorts of community partners now in the VISN office. We've had everything from emergency management training, and man, do we rely on them when it's hurricane time coming. And we have issues at some of our facilities that are either having flooding problems or we need to reach out to those community partners. But we've also seen some very interesting specialized areas growing. Partnering with faith-based communities in that effort for suicide prevention, and really looking at the community and private sector. What's going on? Who's seeing our veterans or our veterans' families that maybe can give us a first clue that there might be an issue? It's been very interesting to see like school and child psychologists coming in and saying something's going on in that house, and being able to reach out and tap into veterans support services in order to figure out that maybe we've got a veteran, that's in crisis. And the first person that we figured it out from was the child, by talking to their child psychologist. So coming through those type of, knowing what the resources are and where to reach out to. Looking at also the alternate housing arrangements, different things. We have about a third of the VISN office is new employees, and so it's an exciting time. You're going to see a lot of new faces, and that's a great thing that even more people to partner with. And as they reach out into their communities, and many of them are veterans themselves, and so that sense of advocacy and the further growth in those areas is what I'm looking forward to. So welcome, thank you.
Thank you very much. Chris Marquez?
That's correct.
Chris Marquez with VA essentially benefits out of Winston-Salem.
That's right.
Can you talk about,
Hi. I think I know a lot of you already in here. I'm Chris Marquez. I'm one of the division chiefs of the Winston-Salem VA regional office, and I've worked with many of you for different types of events, especially with outreach. I've been with VA for 17 plus years, worked at several different offices, and been with Winston for 3 years. And what I'm excited about is to see everyone here and to have this continued partnership to help spread the word, because with all of our efforts that we've had this year, we need to keep the momentum going. We still have about 75% of our veterans out there, which is equivalent to about 500,000 that aren't using VA. And those are just the veterans alone. We have surviving spouses, we have dependents, etc. And these benefits are there for those that have served. And we can't get enough out there to let them know that if they don't and haven't worked with VBA before, please check with us. Let us tell you what you're not entitled to, what you are entitled to. That goes beyond disability compensation. We're talking about home loan, education, vocational rehabilitation, pension, and other type benefits. They're being underutilized. And I need your help in here to share my name, to spread the word, and to let everyone know that the VBA today and where we're going for the next year is not the same that they were dealing with a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We're really innovative. There's a lot of changes in 2020 coming up. You've heard about the Blue Water Navy. You've heard about the change to legislation for appeals, and I can go on and on and on. And so I hope to share more of that with you in this forum. I know that I want to keep the intro short, but please, if you all don't know who I am, make sure you know my email and work with Crystal and our folks here. Thank you.
One of the strong suits of the governor's working group is, and this has been said over and over, but it's worth repeating, is the collaboration that goes in. It is all about collaboration. And so in the spirit of that, what I'd like to do when I read these questions is let whoever is the most appropriate person take it where you will. Because I won't always know where to direct the question. These are coming in cold, so we're all going to be kind of hearing them for the first time. And then, you know, just pass the conch. Or conch? Is it conch or conch? What is it? Anybody know?
Either one is
all right.
correct.
Thank you very much. Pass it as you see fit. Sound good? So, oh, very good. Well, yes, we did. This is good. Well, this will then go to, okay, so this is for VHA. So we'll start with that, VHA, VBA. The northeast part of North Carolina is lacking, according to this writer, just about any funding to help veterans with homelessness, housing, emergency money for utilities, and mental health. What programs are you going to expand in that area specifically, the northeast part of North Carolina, and then presumably around the state as well as you answer the question, to make a difference in those areas? Can you take that?
Sure. Actually, Vision 6 has recently hired a new homeless coordinator. His name is Brian Sangute, and he is out of our office here in Durham.
So Brian Sangute.
Sangute, and he's a social worker by trade, so very specialized in this area. And he comes to us, he was previously at the Durham facility, so has some experience in the Durham area. And has also been up in the Richmond area, so has seen several different VA facilities. And so he would be the best contact for that because this is a program that he is heavily invested in and out and about. And I know has made trips down to Fayetteville, so in that area already, as well as, like I said, has previous experience at Durham. I'm not sure if when he was there, if Morehead City, which is our easternmost CBOC, was a part of our network at that time.
Could you say his name one more time?
Sure,
Brian?
it's Brian Sangute, and Steve Wilkins over here can get you a spelling on that. He's our public affairs officer for Vision 6.
And so Brian would be the outreach person for these causes statewide. For
Yes.
anybody who's interested in these causes, they might go see Brian. Is that
Yes,
right?
he oversees like our grant and per diem programs, the housing programs. And what you bring up in this question is a valid point. When they initially started the homeless program and they were moving veterans into housing, no one had thought about the fact that, well, gee, when you have a new house, you have utilities and some of those kind of things. And if they're struggling, you know, in financial areas, that might be a burden as well. And so there are community partners that have also been working within that area. And so Brian is your key resource man for anything homeless.
Let me take this one. There's a large need for transportation services for veterans in Northampton, Bertie, Hertford, Gates counties, and probably outside of those as well, but specifically in this question. I'm sure there's a need in other parts of the state. Is there anything in the works for those vets regarding transportation issues? Community care, not the solution for this specific, I'm just gonna go ahead and continue reading, not the specific solution in this area, as there are very little providers close. They are typically referred to places that are an hour or more away. Transportation is always a challenge. Can some of you speak to that?
As far as transportation, part of this, and they commented on it within their question, But part of the Mission Act was also an effort to move care closer to veterans. And so there is both the 30-mile, if you have to, if you're going more than 30 minutes drive time for primary care, and then 60 minutes for specialty care, that does make you eligible for care in the community. But we are in the process of building that care in the community network. And so while there may not be something right now, that doesn't mean that we're not avidly working to get that, because we do realize a specific instance that I can think of is like you've had surgery. Do you really want to drive an hour each way for your physical therapy appointment 3 times a week? No, it's better to have that close to home, and we realize that. And so within some of these areas, we're avidly recruiting, and so part of what you can do as veteran service officers for all across the state is advocate for those healthcare providers to sign on with us, because that's part of the issue that we're having, is getting the word out. There are recruiters for the state, and they are avidly working with these healthcare agencies, but knowing that members of the community are supporting and want them to partner with VA and help to take care of veterans. We have extensive training programs. When providers partner with us, we've gotten much better at our billing. That used to be, and I'm just going to put it on the table, it used to be much more of a sticking point. We've come leaps and bounds, and with the new systems that we're working with, our payment of bills has gotten faster. And so if you know of places that have talked about problems with billing or not wanting to sign on for that reason, this is a time to really advocate that, try us again, we've gotten better. And so advocating for that second chance, that if you can do that in your communities, that would be much appreciated. But a lot of providers also, they think it's a complex system. Most are working with electronic medical records now anyway, and with VAs having been the first, they're much more used to that than what you used to see. And so I think that that's gotten easier, but the advocacy from the veteran service organizations and the community members for getting those medical providers in your area to sign on. We're seeing some broad-based contracts nationally. And then also looking at the use of some alternative measures, like are there federally qualified healthcare centers within that region? Maybe some things in some of those counties can be handled in an urgent care, and veterans under the Mission Act are eligible, in certain instances to use urgent care. And so that might be if they've got an urgent care, like with CVS or FastMed or some of those that have signed on under the Mission Act, they might be able to go to the clinic down the street if it's just a sore throat or something that's not a chronic condition. And so that would also help with the transportation.
Lisa, when you say advocate, to go to those organizations and advocate for this, what's that look like on the ground? For maybe everybody here knows this except for me, and I'm sorry if I'm holding people up, but what does that look like? Who do they go to at the hospitals to advocate on behalf of transportation needs? What's that look like?
I was in to see my doctor 2 weeks ago, and I said, are you guys signed on with the Mission Act? Are you taking, and this was a UNC facility. And so, asking those questions, you're there as a patient, perhaps in private sector or things like that. You may belong to other groups. Maybe you're asked to attend a Rotary Club. Lots of doctors hang out there. Some of those service organizations, hey, do you take care of veterans in your clinic? And so just asking that question and having the resources, knowing who to pair them up with. That we have a whole sector now in the Vision 6 office that is working specifically with care in the community at the national level. And so they can direct, like if we find out that there's a medical provider, say there's a group of 3 obstetricians for care for our women veterans that need maternity care. So perhaps they can say, hey, this provider practice is right for somebody to go in and educate them. We do provide a lot of education for those healthcare offices. We're not just going in and dropping them cold and saying, here, figure out our system. We're saying, this is what we need for billing. Here's a contact number to call if you have questions when you're billing back. Here's some education on what we can offer as far as suicide prevention services, mental health, other outreach that maybe that average primary care office doesn't have.
That's a great answer. Thanks very much. I hope that answered whoever asked that question. I hope that gets to some of the question. I wonder, let's move on to another question that was asked about property tax benefits regarding veterans who are other than 100% disabled. So the question is simply, is there any work being done to get property tax benefits, extend those to veterans outside of those who are 100% disabled? Mark, do you have a sense for this?
I do. Thank you, John. The legislation in North Carolina has written that the first $45,000 property tax is exempt from taxes on the primary residence in North Carolina. That is a legislative function. Yes, the American Legion, the Veterans Council has taken that and taken charge of it. The fourth branch has asked for that. Multiple service organizations have been lobbying for that with the General Assembly. Once again, that is your legislator, your General Assembly representative that makes those decisions. And I would say the best answer to this is, when that legislator leaves Raleigh and goes home, capture that person in Walmart, Food Line, or whatever venue that you are there, and ask that legislator about it. That's the person that makes the decision. But yes, thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. And here's another one, maybe that trends into the Business 6 area. But what are the answers to veterans in the Northeast, again, who are told the healthcare clinics aren't enrolling at this time? Is that something you hear, or is that something you can speak to?
With that area, we've struggled to get some providers in out there, so we've adapted into the 21st century and are partnering with some of our VA facilities and doing a lot more with telehealth. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's the young kids, you know, they're real savvy with the smartphones and all of this. But what we're finding is that it's a very valid mechanism for lots of types of care. It doesn't take over everything, but when you have limited providers at a clinic, but you can use providers in another state or in another preferable location within that state. Some people like to live at the beach. Some people want to live in the mountains. If I have a doctor that's got a slower panel, say for example, in the mountains in Asheville, or even in another state, like some of the northeastern states that are declining in the number of veterans that they have, they're moving here to North Carolina. And so within all of that, we can use providers in other areas to do those video telehealth appointments. We're partnering somewhere in some aspects of the community. There's a partnership going on called the Atlas Project right now that's being talked about with Walmart to use some of their services. And so really looking at how many times do you need to be physically there with that provider, or sometimes it's just a matter of we can use the technology that we have and make sure that people that are in any remote area can get the care that they need. We've partnered also with DOD on this. You know, we've seen what they're able to do with doctors back in the States with soldiers that are deployed in locations. And sometimes you just need that ability for somebody to hold the camera at the right angle so that you can see what's going on, and you're like, oh, okay, that's what that is. Here's how we can fix this.
Did I hear you right say there are some problems in getting providers to enroll or to be present here? Is that right? And what can we do to incentivize that? I mean, can people in this room in any way have any effect on incentivizing that problem?
Sometimes it's just the rurality of the location. That there are some very beautiful areas, don't have a lot of people in them. And so in order to have those type of services, we need a population base in order for it to be served. And so it's no different than the community and private sector, you know, that they're looking at how do we place resources in these areas. Some places use a program like where they're training doctors. You may have kind of the old Pony Express theory. Like for example, in some of our smaller clinics, well, they don't need to have an optometrist or a podiatrist or something there 5 days a week. But man, one day every 2 weeks on kind of a circuit rotation makes it nice. or having the ability for how can you expand the privileges of those primary care doctors. And so we do training, but yet there's somebody back at the main facility that can help to oversee them for something like a joint injection, so they don't have to travel all that long way. And so the advocacy amongst the school systems, you know, we like to get people that are coming out of school, and so we train. You know, Durham is considered the city of medicine, and we train lots of healthcare professionals in this entire state. And so making use of those coming out of schools. The VA has some succession planning programs, like with if a VA nurse goes on to become a nurse practitioner and it's paid for with VA, then we reemploy them at that higher level now that they've learned. And so getting some people that we've already paid for their education and some of those stipends.
You know, access to service seems to be a theme as I look through these cards. A lot of them have to do with getting services to the people, which is no surprise given the folks asking questions, right? This next one may be best suited for you. I don't know if you want to grab the mic, but this speaks again down to the westernmost counties in the state. This is they still go untouched by VBA. Several counties have no service officers and are underserved. Are there plans to expand outreach in the western part of the state?
Absolutely. I don't know if you saw the commotion going on over there in the corner. We were working with just met some of the new county folks, and that was something that we wanted to reach out to. And Jeremy over there connected me with the right group. The Cherokee area, which is very central to not only Native American, elderly, rural, and just a high minority population.
This happened just today?
Just right before we walked on stage, actually.
We're making connections, people.
So it's really important because that is an area we haven't been to. We've been out there with Congressman Walker and his group and doing a traveling show, but not as far as Cherokee. And we know that those parts are even harder to access. And so now that we have a connection, it's now, well, we can provide resources, let's do something great. And so what we're actually looking at is looking at a claims clinic. For those of you that are not familiar, it's usually a single day or even a multi-day event where we bring rating specialists and adjudicators and leadership to a specific location that is away from Winston. The last one we were in Cary. We brought 29 people, and we were there to serve about 1,100 folks who came in to work with us directly to file claims or move their claims forward. We went as far as to bring in contract examiners, mental health physicians, general physicians, audiologists, TBI specialists, the whole gamut to be able to complete 237 exams for some of our veterans that came across actually 13 different states or more. We paid $500,000 in benefits just from that event, and we're excited to replicate something like that in Western North Carolina. So, again, Chris Worguez put the pressure on me. I can get us out there. I'm actually the decision maker on a lot of that, and I work with my leadership to work with you all to make sure that the requirements are there. We have what we need, and you have what you need from us to make it successful.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And I have my head down when another panelist, another guest joined us. Nice to see you, Michelle. This is Dr. Michelle Laws. She works with DHHS, and I would love if you could just introduce yourself to folks. And thank you for joining us. I know you got stuck in traffic. Don't worry, we've been okay, but we're glad to have you.
Well, thank you all so much, and I do apologize. I was actually at another state-supported program in Winston-Salem, so I'm just glad to be here, and again, glad to reiterate the support and the commitment that the Department of Health and Human Services has in terms of supporting our veterans and military families. As I mentioned on the video that I think you've already seen, we invest millions of dollars. We know that oftentimes people think about the Department of Military and Veteran Affairs, they think about the VA in terms of providing services to support our military. And I am proud that under the leadership of Dr. Mandy Cohen and also Deputy Secretary Cody Kinsley, we too want you to know that we also support our military families and veterans, and we are doing so in some remarkable and wonderful ways. And so I'm just glad to be here. I'm glad of the work that we continue to do in making sure that the governor's working group under Jeff Smith, who's on my team, under his leadership, that it continues to exist. And so I'm just proud to be here. I'm a daughter of a veteran. My father served in the Army. He's now deceased, and I have a host of family members who also served. So deeply committed and invested.
Thank you very much for being here. I have a question. The one came up that I'm curious to ask you, I think, Lisa. Here's the question. Can you give an honest answer? Anything that starts like that, as a former reporter of me loves. Can you give an honest answer as to whether the Mission Act is actually more effective than the Choice program? So I think for a lot of folks, there is a question about this. Can you help with that? Can you help us understand at least how you see it? And then if anybody else would like to speak to these, please.
Sure. Well, Mission Act has been with us. The initiation date was June 6th, so we've had it for maybe 120 days, approaching that now. So it's fairly new. We're still seeing some of the implements. The initial rollout of it was very fast-paced. Your VHA facilities had to cope with a significant amount of work, training, new computer. I liken it kind of to if you've always worked on Mac and one day they decide that they're switching your entire computer system to a DOS system or Dell or something like this where you're on a Windows platform. It was a lot of training and a lot, just a short amount of time. But overall, I was very impressed with how Vision 6 and the employees here within the network, as well as the veterans and the veteran service organizations stepped up on that. There were a lot of pieces of information going out at different times. And it kind of harkens back to what I told you. It's still being built. And so do I think it's better than Choice? Yes. I do think it's better than Choice. I think it's an improvement. But is there ways to go? Yes. We're still not wholly rolled out in it. A lot of people have been asking questions about caregiver support and how that program is going to roll out. And so we're in the learning mode for that. We got the initial part for care in the community rolled out, and we're working on expanding that network. And that's where we really need that advocacy from the community of getting more providers on board. We want to be able to fulfill this mission, but we need the support of the communities in order to do that. I do think it's an improvement. It still has hiccups, though. It's just like when you update your phone and you find out, oh, there's a couple things that maybe it needs a bug fix. There are a couple things we need a bug fix on, but they are working on it. They're not being ignored.
Thank you very much, Martin.
John, I'd like to caveat this to Lisa's comments. Lisa works, at the 1 over 100,000 level, right? These are the people that work a one-on-one level. They know the issues. I have taken our field operations, our chief field operations officer, Crystal Miller. She is the guinea pig for the Mission Act. And I say that. She knows what some of the bugs are. And I would ask her, and I know she has conveyed that, but she is the eyes and ears on the ground for the state, for the veteran services, for the veteran service officers, to find out how can we make it better. We can't make it better if we don't know what's broken. So she's finding out what's broken. So Lisa, I will put you right there at that point of contact.
That's a lightning rod. We'll have to get your contact information. I think there are some folks that might want to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. And this is what the governor's working group is, collaboration. Okay. Bingo. Thank you. I'm sorry.
This question reads, this question is about veteran courts. This is something treatment courts, something that I have covered in my career and something that is close to my heart. I'll just quickly say veteran treatment courts, for folks who don't know, there were 4 of them in this state. They were started by Governor Pat McCrory, but they only had about 2 or 3 years of funding involved, and that funding was never re-upped. They are a remarkably effective way of helping veterans who have been convicted multiple times, let's say repeat DUI offenses. They're non-violent offenders, but they clearly are, they are folks who have have either substance use disorder problems or other issues that they need to be worked with. Veteran treatment courts solve problems in ways regular courts do not. The recidivism rate is basically zero when these folks complete these programs. And there is zero funding for them. The people who help around the state are all volunteers by and large. There is some federal block grant money that's available to them. So this question, I tee it up so folks know what these things are. For veterans, a downward spiral starts with legal issues. Some North Carolina counties have courts and services to help these veterans, these veteran treatment courts. How can the governor's working group help to mandate a statewide mandate for these kind of things? I don't know if we can get an answer to that, but I would love somebody to tackle this question of getting funding for or continuing the good work being done at veteran treatment courts. Maybe you can do that, Mr. Paulson.
Thank you, John. Yes, Veterans Treatment Court, Eric Truesdale, I think, is in this room, who is Harnett County. That is the model picture. Started that one in Harnett County. It starts out with the district attorney. Got to have the buy-in from the district attorney in those counties.
Okay, so for folks who want to maybe to start a veteran treatment court or maybe to see that expanded in their corners of the state where it does not exist,
correct.
That's the place to go, the DA?
That's correct. And I know we have advocated that. North Carolina had the first veterans court. It has proven to be so successful because those veterans are discharged with issues, medical issues, whatever. And we have upgraded that. They've gone through the penal system, but this is special because they do have disabilities.
Right.
And that's what's looked at. It's much more rigid to go through the veterans court than it is just the civil court itself. And they will tell you. And they have a mentor assigned to them.
This is the problem, there's just no funding. Dr. Laws,
That's
can you
correct.
speak to this?
Well, I'm glad that mentor was brought up because one of the things that we're looking at the Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Abuse Services is establishing more forensic peer support programs in specialized areas. So one would be for veterans who find themselves exiting from our criminal justice system, and also those who need peer support to help them navigate some of the legal system issues. But I do want to say that we are exploring ways, and certainly with this population as well, that we can stop as a state criminalizing behavioral health disorders and mental illness and substance use disorders. And so one of the things that we will do is to continue to build partnerships like this and like the governor's working group affords us the opportunity to do so, to explore how we can really drive that message home, that it is a sickness. People are sick, and when they act in ways that we would perceive as illegal or act in ways, and even in some instances, I was at a meeting not too long ago related to some arrests in the ED departments of persons who are having psychotic episodes. And my whole thing is, well, you know, they're having a psychotic episode, so yeah, they probably spit because they were highly agitated, and that was the charge. Well, they spit on a nurse. And I'm not advocating spitting on nurses. I'm just simply advocating for more understanding and compassion for people who are sick and not just physically sick.
Thank you very much. I would, we have to sort of wrap it up at some point here, but I want to give a nod to a couple Facebook questions, or at least one that came in. It's on the benefit side of things, I think, so I'll take the mic back over here. I would just use this quickly as an opportunity to make another pitch for the GWG, because it is this wonderfully collaborative effort. It's online, and so questions have been coming in online for us, and for folks who are in kind of the hinterlands and just cannot make it in, please join us online. It's as easy as just it's a click away, folks, to join this really collaborative effort, and we would love you to take part in it if you don't already. Here's the question: will there be a billing specialist dedicated to helping to fix wrongful billing? As a reporter, I can tell you that billing questions this is one of the most common stories that comes in. People complaining that there's been this wrongful billing and they've got the mix up here and there, That's the old reporter. Oh, that's more you over here. You hit it over there. Can you take that then? I'm sorry, I put it to the wrong person. But
That's okay. I can try. Yes, there has been an emphasis on relooking at billing. There's also more focus. We're doing internal audits as well. We get phone calls, the facilities get phone calls and things like this. The big thing is that when you see an error, make sure you're telling somebody about it and telling quickly. Medical billing, not my specialty area, but there are certain filing procedures, and so if things aren't caught in a timely manner, and then the provider goes back and tries to bill at a later date, there are some statutes on that, and those are nationally, they're not specific to North Carolina or specific to the VA. There's a lot of things that your typical Blue Cross and Blue Shield or insurance company, has regulations for that as well. But if you are seeing something, it's very important that you raise the flag and don't wait on it.
terrific. Okay, Chris,
John,
I'll take you now.
John,
Yes.
can I add something to that?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yes, Steve.
Sure.
Steve Wilkins, folks. Vision 6.
Also Vision 6. What I would suggest is that. Thanks.
What I would suggest is that we've learned a lot of lessons through choice, and we've tried to adjust what we do as a result. And so there has been a really readdressing of the billing process, the billing systems, the administration overall, at a national level, and as it feeds down into the field. And so what you should see over time is a streamlining and really many less delays. And I think that's where that question is really going. That we took lessons from choice, we built it into, as Ms. Shear referred, we built it into the Mission Act. And the process is vastly different in terms of the way that we coordinate with our third-party vendors, in terms of the way that we deal with providers, in terms of the way that they get back to us, in terms of expectations, in terms of how we do business. And so there should be a very noticeable change, not only to providers, but also to veterans and the response that we get from those in the community about how we do business with them.
Thank you very much. This next question is, I think about benefits, so I can read this right. So basically this is a question that pertains to the training and expertise of people who are answering the phones. I'll just read the question for what it is and take it where you will. Often when we call the special VSO helpline phone number to ask questions pertaining to a claim, we get VA employees who read a textbook response. They don't seem to be as trained to communicate with our level of experience. Members in the audience. Can we get connected with someone who knows more than the standard phone operator? So can we get to folks who know what they're doing out there as opposed to necessarily somebody who's going to file away?
Sure. That's a great question. These call agents are our frontline representatives. They're the first experience for some of our veterans that call and will ask questions about the VA. And it is disappointing to hear that the call answer rate and the quality that's provided is not where it needs to be. The call center has been an issue for VBA for a number of years. When it first stood up, it happened rather quickly. And because as an agency we've been growing so much, we've been promoting a lot from those ranks. And so folks haven't been in that position for very long as we continue to hire. And so that results in our front line not trained where they need to be. So what they've done in the past, this past year, was to, actually have a different division overlooking what the call center does and to take another look at their training. The training that they receive is not the same type of training that our claims processors receive in Winston-Salem. Our Winston-Salem folks go through a 4-week training online, and then they go off to a residential training program for 6 weeks. The training that the call center folks were going through was not nearly as intensive as it is now, to where now they're also part of a residential program to help. So we expect that the improvement of the quality and the answers provided will improve, and we expect it to get better. If you do have questions, it's good we have everyone in here because we can help clarify some of those nitty-gritty and real detailed questions, because at the call center, they're doing the best they can do with the answers they have, and they try to do the research as quickly as possible. But when we work one-on-one with you, we could ask a lot of the direct questions so we can get to what they're truly asking for. And I think that's the value in really working with us to make sure we do it right.
So I think we have to start wrapping it up, and the way I'd like to do that is with some words of inspiration from each of you, and I'd like to start with you, Chris. And
Sure.
I'd like to guide your words of inspiration, if it's all right. I'd like to start with something that your boss, Mr. Belos, said to me as I was leaving, and I was asking what he was excited about 2020, and I haven't heard it mentioned yet. It excites me because I know some of the folks it will affect, and maybe you can speak to it. So in 2020, as I understand it, you'll be expanding the Blue Water Navy Veteran Program. You'll be expanding benefits, I should say, to Blue Water Navy veterans. I know some of these folks, I know the struggle that they have had getting benefits. Maybe you can steer your inspiration toward that idea that that's one big change I think that we'll finally see that's about time, in my opinion. But maybe take away one.
Yeah, we know that the process has been very complicated. In VA, we were strictly bound by certain regulations, and we were happy to see that they expanded our ability to be able to actually more define what the Blue Water Group is. And that is literally thousands of veterans, and not to mention surviving spouses who are out there who are entitled to benefits. So I'm really excited to know that folks who've been fighting for years, sometimes 20 plus years, and have been denied over and over again, and we told them that their story isn't right, that they're 13 miles or they're 7 miles, but it's still not within those waterways, but we could make that right. And so now that we have it defined, we have the ship logs, and we're working closely with the historical record, the DOD, to know where people were at. It'll make the process better for everybody and to try to make things right. So I do encourage you though is to get out there and encourage folks to file. Surviving spouses, there's still entitlement. So if we did something wrong in the past and we incorrectly denied it, we could make that right again, and then get you the benefits that you're entitled to. So please spread the word, don't wait, file a claim, and trust the aid.
Here, here. Is there anything else you want to say before we pass the mic down and leave it where we have
Just
it?
lastly, pension is another big thing we're focused on this year. As a veteran here, we're all going to die, we're all going to go down that road. There's a process to pension burial benefits. And I ask all of you to spread the word, to help them fill applications now. That way the paperwork is already done, because when that veteran passes, we have these packets that we're now giving out. They can turn that packet back in, and we can pay their burial benefits, we can get their headstone markers, we could reimburse education. There's so many things that we can do, and we can make that process more simple with your help, and then working with us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
I think as we move into 2020 for VHA, that the real sense of moving towards a positive and preventative mechanism. We've heard a lot over the last several years, suicide prevention. We're expanding our efforts in whole health, in efforts not only for suicide prevention, but just making our veterans a healthier population in general, and not looking at it just amongst the physical health, that looking at the mental health, the spiritual health, and really focusing on that whole person, or in some instances, the whole family unit. And so I think that same concept is really replicated here in the governor's work group, that it's not just about one specific service or entity, that it's about that coming together. And so I think that focusing on that whole health for the betterment of our veterans, and looking at how different things that have been raised here, like legal issues or financial issues, and all of those impact not only the physical health of our veterans, but as well as other areas. And so that emphasis of coming away from looking at separate body systems or separate services, and really the blending of how we all work together and overlap, I think is the most exciting thing that I'm seeing.
For the State Department of Military and Veteran Affairs, as I stated earlier, we know what the bar is, and I think we've achieved some of the bars. I look forward to next year. You just heard it. New opportunities here. Blue Water. That's an opportunity for us to reach our veterans out there. We have the Mission Act. That is a new opportunity. And we together can make it better. Through DHHS, and I can't say enough how much DHHS, Michelle, thank you for the support you give our department, that we can reach those veterans, we can touch them. The coffees throughout the state are unbelievable. And that is the grassroots, where those veterans show up and they start talking. Just this week, this is a facility that does contract lodging for the VA hospital here. We've completed 5 claims this week on veterans that are staying overnight. I give my hand to these people in the field. That's the grassroots, as I said. They make a difference. And I look forward to this same thing next year with Mark's group, with Deanne's group, with Lisa, with Chris, with Michelle. I look forward to that next year. The same collaboration that we can provide those earned benefits to the greatest population of the world, the most revered job, the military in our nation, and we can provide it to them. Yes, I totally look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. So on behalf of DHHS and particularly the Division of Mental Health, DD, and Substance Abuse Services, there are several priority populations that we will continue to support in terms of our veterans and military families and enlisted members. Homeless population, we will continue to invest in Operation Home, making sure that we have services for and access to reaching those veterans who are sleeping under bridges and in cars and on park benches and in the woods and so forth. To me, that hurts me to my core, and I'm sure it does to many of you, if not all of you, who have served our country. That is not the welcome home we should be providing. And then also, in terms of suicide prevention, we too, one of our values is whole person and person-centered care, and so continuing to invest in areas that address behavioral health and using our integrated care model. And also, I often say that home is where the help is. And unfortunately, there's a segment of the veterans population that were discharged under the category of other than honorable discharge, who also need our help. And those are the ones that we are seeing in our system, in our Medicaid system, in our public health, mental health, DD, and substance abuse system, service system. And so we will continue to support them. I understand, I get it, and I always say it's like a family. Sometimes family members are excommunicated from families and they get help in other places for whatever reason. And I am grateful that DHHS is providing support and looking for ways to support some of the members who were discharged by other than honorable discharge who have behavioral health conditions that need us to intervene, substance use disorder and mental illness. And so those are our commitments, and of course we will continue as long as we can to support the Governor's Working Group, because we believe that it is an invaluable, or actually a very valuable resource to the state.
Fabulous place to leave this. As I mentioned earlier, this is the last one for the year. When we start up next year, we would love to see you there, whether it's online or in person. Please think about making the Governor's Working Group part of your monthly calendar. Third Thursday of every month, 2 to 4, pretty easy, you can make it. Please think about it. We have to wrap it up. I want to say thank you to Millennium for letting us use the space. Certainly I want to say thank you to our panelists, Chris Warguez, Lisa Shearer, Martin Falls, Dr. Michelle Ross. Thank you for making time for us. But mostly, thank you. Thank you all for what you do. Thank you for what you do every day. My dad's a veteran. We all have connections. If we didn't serve, we are so connected, everybody here. And you guys, you folks in the crowd are making it. better every day. Thank you very much. One of the things that was not said, John, and I'll turn it back over, but Michelle, you know it, I know it. Jeff Smith, thank you for the hard work you do through DHHS, through Commerce, to our department, to the veterans of North Carolina. I will tell you that he is a Trojan horse. And thank you, Jeff, for all you do for this state.
Fair enough. Jeff's a little shy today. That's all right. Hey, my name is Dave Roddenberry. I haven't seen you guys since way back when. Crystal, I think we were in 2015. I was introduced to the VSS program. My name is Dave Roddenberry. I work for the NC program now out of the Institute for Veterans and Military Families at Syracuse University. Quick show of hands, how many folks have actually heard of NC Serves? Oh my God, I wasn't this happy on my wedding day. That's fantastic, and this will make this next slide a whole lot easier. So, very broadly, the way an NC Serves network works is there are 4 across the state, and a client will come to us one of 2 or 3 ways. Right? They'll walk in, they'll submit something on the website or the portal, or they're already working with one of the providers that's in our system, and that provider sees an additional need and refers them into the system. That referral goes into a coordination center. Here in Raleigh, it's the USO of North Carolina, who do a fantastic job, and hopefully Paul and the team are watching today. And then put out to the appropriate provider. So we'll have a little bit more time tomorrow to deep dive into this, but just wanted to get that present in your mind. Now, this is for those that saw us last month. Not a whole lot of change this late in the year. We don't really see a lot of month-over-month change in the data. But a couple of things that I want to point out here. Number one, 83%. It's the big number. Resolved outcomes. Most of the 17% that we have not resolved are just unable to contact. People don't pick up the phone. If the Powerball odds were 83%, we'd be buying a ticket right now, right? I wouldn't be here. So why not play the Powerball on behalf of the veterans that we see? The other thing that I want to point out is 329, participating organizations across North Carolina. That is organizations that are linked to not only their local network, but those local networks are linked to one another. And so that is a multiplicative effect of the power of this network that goes across 17 locations across the U.S. What our clients need, by far and away, as usual, housing and shelter is the top of the list, along with employment. Those are, I think, always have, always will be our big ones. But I want to point out the co-occurring needs. So the average client that comes to see us, has a little over 2 service reports, because we understand, and I think that you in this room understand, that when somebody has a housing and shelter need, they probably have, we'll say, a hiccup in employment. They probably have a need to access other benefits. And so the two big ones that track along with housing and shelter referrals, right down here at the bottom, and I'm not smart enough to figure out how to shoot a laser at it, but employment and benefits connection. We'll get deeper into this tomorrow, and we'll have some VSOs that are currently using the system get up and share some of their experiences. But we have 32 in the system right now. 94% of those are active in the network. They're either making or receiving referrals, which far and away is better than any other provider population that we have. So to those 32 on the list, thank you very much. And to those not on the list, come see us tomorrow. Let's get you on there. Any questions for me? Great. Thanks for the time.
Thank you so much, Dave. I am also not only a supporter of Governor's Working Group, but NC Serves, because I know that it works. They are just like the Mission Act. They have some bugs in some places that need to be worked out. We're going to keep working on it. We are going to take a 10-minute break.